So welcome, all the new people and everyone on Zoom and Facebook Live. Today is a beautiful day in Sarasota, Florida. This is the Cosmic Center of Spiritual Light. And this is our Sunday service at 10:30 a.m. We're going to open up. Many of you may already have seen it, the prayer for paradise on earth. Do you have a copy? There should be one right next to you. Did you get one as you came in? In the basket. Oh, they're next to the basket. And it's just this one, the prayer for paradise on earth. Okay, there's one right next to you.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody else?
Okay.
Yeah.
And as we're going to be talking, it's really important because emotions are a frequency, you see, and thought. And so what we want to do is infuse every word, every thought with this beautiful emotion. We're making sure everyone has. It's called the Prayer for Paradise on Earth, and we'll all say it together as a collective. It'll be like a beautiful choir singing to the heavens. And so this is from the Joe Ray Fellowship, and you may want to go to that. It's a beautiful site. I put it at the bottom of the page there, www.johrei.fellowship.com. And it's just a beautiful website, a beautiful spiritual center, and you will love this. But let's go ahead and just open up this beautiful sacred space, and we'll do the prayer for paradise on earth. And I'm going to be going forward and backward for just a little bit, going ahead and amplifying with the frequency of 432, which I will get into why that is so important for the crystal heart. So let's go ahead and together say the prayer for paradise on earth. Great God of light, we behold your plan unfolding, whereby all spiritual clouds are dispelled, impurity and error cleansed from the realms of spirit and matter. The age of light and joy is being born. Through your infinite compassion, misguided forces waken unto truth, and negative practices cease, while forces of light unhindered restore the world to peace. All of nature receives your loving influence and finds its rightful place. Peaceful clouds move across brilliant skies, and the fragrance of countless flowers floats upon the air. Abundant harvests glorify the earth, every corner filled with happy voices. Boundaries between countries vanish, and ancient conflicts disappear as with dreams. All people are united, encircled by your light, and guided by your wisdom. Through service to humanity, all are blessed with health, peace, and prosperity. Great God of light, strengthen us with courage and wisdom to follow your will and realize paradise on earth. And as you'll find out, you'll see why I love that, because it really is bringing paradise to earth. We encapsulate the divine presence, and we can reflect that presence up to heaven. But the masters of all masters know, then when you understand it all, you can realize that earth is paradise. So let me go ahead with, I'm just going to make sure someone beeped in. I want to make sure that we don't have any kind of problems. Okay, so the audio was having a problem. We have it now, so that's good. So this is a trifold kind of situation where we have to worry about Zoom and Facebook and now in person, but we can do it. Multidimensional. So what I'd like to do is permeate this beautiful center with the holy essence of sound And as I go ahead and through this, and you'll see when I go into it in detail, each tone, think of it as the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but you have the chakras, and each chakra vibrates to a certain frequency. So you can activate your body, your wheels of light, if they will, and activate your physical being all along and align the mental and spiritual aspects. So you can be totally aligned with the Creator and activated. So let's go ahead and just close our eyes for a second and take in that beautiful presence, the breath of life. And have it move up through you with each deep breath, bringing and activating that beautiful energy that the breath of life brings. Combine it with your pure thoughts. Jesus said to keep your thoughts pure. Remember, he said, be wise as a serpent and pure as a dove. And that is really activating your divine birthright. Jesus said, all these things that I do, ye can do these and greater. He taught the way, and that is what the Essenes called the way. Activating our own birthright, our divine birthright. We are made in the similitude of the Divine Father and the Divine Mother. So in a future time, and I have spoken about the gospel of peace, and I'll go ahead and do so in more and more sermons, but there is online, when you go into the Cosmic Center of Spiritual Light, when you go online, you'll see I've already did some lectures on the gospel of peace, and I'll go ahead and finish the other two in future ones, but it is absolutely a beautiful read. We're very lucky that they unearthed this in the Vatican, and these were Jesus's words and instructions to the Essene brethren. And he'll tell you exactly what you should be doing every day, how you should eat, breathe, and having that beautiful gratitude and bringing the angels each day. It's just beautiful. So what I like to do is now let's discuss the holy elements of sound. Why is it so important? Cultures all across the globe have always had holy chants, mantras, and you'll see and why it is so important. Even the Tibetans, the American Indians, you have the drumming. You drop yourself in when you have this repetitive prayers. Think of the rosary beads. It drops you into a theta state, which is brain entrainment. But on top of it, you are literally saying and thinking beautiful, holy thoughts that vibrate out. And so at that point in time, you're combining all these elements together. So think of sound and frequency and healing. There's mathematics to it. And again, I apologize, I don't have the screen up here to show you, so I will be very descriptive. There's 81 low shu tones. And these low shu tones it's a mathematical ratio. And that's why when I bring my lambdoma, which is that beautiful instrument, I can play ratios of music, you'll get to see that. And I'll bring that in for this next week at the Metaphysical Festival. But you can also see that it's ratios. And so God is like a mathematician. And he has these universal laws that get displayed throughout the universe. And part of them is we are uncovering, but you'll see these low shoe tones and also with Pythagoras, with the lambda, but it's all ratios. So that's what I'm trying, and I'll show you this, but you'll start to see if you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you start dividing them, that's where you're going to be getting these low shoe tones and also this lambda that Pythagoras is talking about. And each one is going to represent a color. So now you're going to combine the elements of color and light. You see this? And sound. Sound is a frequency, is a vibration. And I would like to introduce everyone to the term cymatics. Okay, so cymatics was they first invented it in the 1800s. It's always been around for hundreds of thousands of years. All the religions knew about it. There's even some Tibetan stories where they were able to move boulders with these long, instruments that they would play and chant, and they were able to move these boulders and levitate them. And so they actually had videos of this, but when I guess they came and confiscated it. But so you'll start to see, and the scientists nowadays are starting to look at this, how sound can be used. Even they're starting in the Western world, learning how to use a little bit of the sound frequencies and the cancellations and how it moves to be able to put small objects and levitate them. But the Tibetans have known this for a long time. But Caldi in the 1800s took a violin, and he had a plate. He really wanted to be famous. And so he was able to take a violin bow and a plate, and he sprinkled some sand. What he discovered is when you do it in certain ways, you can make these move the sand. Just the vibration of the violin bow, right, was making sand move. So Hans Jenny is the pioneer now of cymatics. And then he was able to turn around and take this to another degree of absolute beauty. Let me see if I can. We've got to get this plugged in. And I want you to be looking at him on the internet. And what he was able to do is he put different types of materials, and then he would vibrate them, and realized that you could take light dust particles, and what you would do is it would create certain intonations, would create swirls and sound, and they would create like mountains and valleys. You better hope that this is working. Okay.
You need an extension cord?
Let's see if this is charging. If it goes out, I might have to have you get an extension cord. So he turned around and really put sound on the map. He would start all these beautiful, like you could like filings, like iron filings, and he would put them in like a little case, and then put the sound under it, and you would start to see everything move like mountains, and it would change, and it looked exactly like planet Earth. And you're starting to say, wait a second, sound really, really is important. And then we're going to be bringing in about Rife. Rife turned around and used sound to heal. But let's go back through just a little bit of the ancient knowledge. The mystery schools, the ancient cultures have always known about the holy elements of sound. But where's the chain of ancient knowledge? So again, remember current, we've got Hans Jenny, the cymatics, and now there's all kinds of wonderful people that I'm hoping I'll have enough time to just give you some of their names so you can look at it on your own and be able to see what the current technology is, because they are finding out that certain frequencies, like 40 hertz, has been very healing, and they're noticing benefits with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And those are the low frequencies, right? But there's also some other frequencies that they're starting to investigate that can do all kinds of healing benefits. And I just want to bring this out to you. Ultrasound, they're now starting to use ultrasound to blast kidney stones. You see this? So that's a frequency. So when you start looking at this, even science today is utilizing the elements of sound and frequency to heal the body. The ancients knew about the sound, and Pythagoras was using it in his Western mystery schools. But you're going to start to see the mystery schools had it, the Essenes had it, all this, and even Jesus was incorporating sound. You see, this is voice, he was trained, this is thought. Thought is so important because it creates a frequency. And that then is like electromagnetic. And then you're going to start to see that they've actually taken pictures of the body, and it's 1,000 times we produce light from chemical reactions within our bodies. It is 1,000 times less than what the naked eye can see, but we do know that the body produces light. And then thoughts magnify that, you see. So we are light, we are our thoughts, and we're chemical, we're physical, right? But we are light, captured light frequencies. And then you combine this with beautiful consciousness and thoughts. So we're starting in the Western world to have science validate some of this and start utilizing the elements of sound, whether it's listening to certain frequencies or having the doctors utilize certain frequencies. If they're blasting kidney stones, think back what Raymond Royal Rife did. And he cured cancer, by the way. And because he wouldn't release it, and I can talk to you about that at length, but you can do your own research. Because he didn't want to release it to this individual, they crucified him, but he had 16 patients. And this was at, at Johns Hopkins, and then it was a University of California that was working with him to do this experiment with all the top doctors. 16 patients he had, he cured every single one of them with his beautiful frequencies. He cured cancer. And then because he wouldn't release it into the venues that they wanted to promote, he wanted to release it to the world, he crucified him. So Rife was using frequencies. Do you see that? And that's finding the resonant frequency. And even today, if you put in Dr. Holland on YouTube and go to the TED Talk, he's utilizing, and he thought this was so interesting, he actually did a TED Talk on it. And so he's going to show you that where he's working at his university, but he'll have beautiful pictures under a microscope of you seeing certain cells. And then when you find the resonant frequency, it makes the cell implode. And that reduces, he got the same numbers as Raymond Royal Rife, a reduction of 60% in cancer cells. And so we are starting to uncover, rediscover the elements and utilize science for healing. So that's today. And I would love, anyone afterwards, you stay, I'll show you where to go to find some of this information. But we are using these elements of sound. And we have to really be mindful of what we utilize in our homes, in our hearts, what we listen to, what we think. You see, that's when Jesus said, think pure thoughts, because that creates that beautiful frequency. But be mindful of what you have on the TV. Be mindful of the music you're listening to. And I'll even show you Dr. Emoto. Dr. Emoto was able, bless his heart, he's up in the etheric realms now, and we're going to give him beautiful gratitude. But he was able to show that thought can imbue water and change it. And he could take pictures before and after you thought a beautiful thought or an ugly thought. And he would show you the difference. And I have this in the PowerPoint. And that would change the element of water itself so that a beautiful thought like love or harmony actually looks like a beautiful snow crystal. You see that? Like a little snowflake. And then horrible music, you've got your rap, your other dissonant music would look awful. Do you see that? So this is what we're exposing ourselves to. And so at this point in time, we really want to play holy music or play beautiful, thoughtful music that is exposing our body and our mind and creating these beautiful frequencies in us. And then combine them with your thoughts. And then what did our beautiful God give us? He gave us this instrument, and Pythagoras calls it like a beautiful lyre. You see? And so the nerves are like the strings. And that as we say, we bring that into fruition. And God said, let there be light. You think it, you say it, and then you can play it. With your body, with your mind. He gives us action. We actually have energy to bring our thoughts to fruition. And you'll start to see that. That's a beautiful principle to know. And that's where you'll start to see that is our divine birthright. We have thought. Thought is an energy. God said, let there be light. What do we say to ourselves? And then we can command it. I command, I think peace with every word and thought and action. And then you say it, and then it is so, because then you have to enact it. So that's the beautiful elements of what we can do when we combine thought and sound together with our physical bodies. But sound itself affects our physical body, and it can heal or it can hurt. In a lot of instances, like Rife with certain frequencies, with the resonant frequency, you want it to dispel the viruses or bacteria. And that's where we need to be moving more and more. It's non-invasive, it doesn't hurt, can destroy cancer. Look at the beautiful benefits. So let's go back a little bit. I want to take you into some of the history of the mystery schools and where did the elements come from. The chain of ancient knowledge. Legend speaks of the Greek initiates gaining their knowledge of the philosophic and therapeutic aspects of music from the Egyptians. Did you know that? They say they received it from Hermes, who is the founder of the art. And I even spoke on the Cobran Bible about where that might have come from, where it was, a beloved brother twice born and thrice born. You see, and those are the initiates in the pyramids. So that's the mystery schools. So this goes way back, and I'm going to be able to show that to you, and I have in other lectures, pre-flood. And the Cobran Bible was another thing that I went into great detail on. That's amazing. It has a lot of this. It's some of the beautiful elements of where all this came from before the flood. So let's talk about, we have Hermes, right? Now Pythagoras. This is where we start to remember some of this in our history. So he lived 570 to 495 BC, and he studied with the Egyptians. And there's a whole history there where he had to go off and had to, learn all this beautiful knowledge from them. So he's a beautiful person to really go and delve into his history on that. He's a disciple of Sotes, the Egyptian ark prophet. And according to Lambiscus, 234 to 325 AD, and this was a translation from 1918 by Thomas Taylor. I'm trying to give you references if you want to come back there and find that Pythagoras remained in Egypt for 22 years studying astronomy, geometry, and then was captured by soldiers and went to Babylon, where he was instructed by the Magi in arithmetic, music, and other disciplines. So Pythagoras wasn't just a mathematician with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. he was studied in many of these ancient teachings. And that's why I wanted to just kind of briefly go through that. It's really, really important to know that he's not just a mathematician and that he would have had some of these beautiful other elements. Plato spoke of the Egyptians. Egyptian poetry existed for at least 10,000 years. So now we're going way back in time. And they said it was so exalted that only the gods or godlike men could have composed it. Ancient perennial knowledge is held in the mystery schools from age to age. And that's why you'll see me, I have been a Rosicrucian for 40 years. And the Rosicrucians are an ancient mystery school dating way back with ties to that. So you'll start to see through the pyramids, the initiations at that point in time, the higher mystics were all given this holy knowledge that was held sacred through the times. And the reasons for that is because a lot of times you'll have religions come and go, everything's burned. And so you'll have the mystery schools trying to keep this ancient holy knowledge intact. And then in order for them to be able to give this to the initiate, they have to have been proven worthy. Because you don't want to give this holy knowledge to someone who would misuse it or abuse it. Do you see that? So that's why they do that. So right now we are rediscovering this beautiful ancient knowledge. The music of the spheres. The Pythagoreans believed that everything which existed had a voice, and that all creatures were eternally singing the praise of the Creator. Isn't that beautiful? And what did I just kind of talk about? Isn't that really what we're doing today? If our thoughts are aligned, even on earth, and we talked about this, that earth can be paradise, you see? And they'll say that the angels up in heaven are coming around the throne of God, singing holy praises. But we can do that on earth, as above, so below. And so we can have that heaven on earth, in earth and heaven. So that's who the ancient Pythagoreans were. Pythagoras said, man fails to hear these divine melodies because his soul is enmeshed in the illusion of material existence, and that we forget. And that's where, and I'll talk about this in the metaphysical fair for those who would like to talk about it, starts off with these near-death experiences, even the initiations in the pyramids, and you'll see this in South America, the Mayans, each of the ancient culture sites would have had what they call a resurrection. And for 3 days, they were brought to the brink of death and then came back. And when they came out into the world again, they were considered resurrected. You see this? And that was part of the initiates, that you could see all these other beautiful realms and come back and be able to explain that. And so that's one of the initiation rites. And so what Pythagoras is saying is that he was able to hear the music of the spheres. And I will tell you that I have heard that. So, but that's again, when you have what the Celts call twin sight, where you're able to navigate Earth. And then if you've died or you've been in that transcendental state like that, you'll be able to hear that everything has a frequency. And what Pythagoras so long ago was saying, that all the planets have a frequency. And he was able to hear that. Well, guess what? NASA today, they have been able to clock the planets. And that each one, they can hear it, and they'll bring it up to the magnitude by multiplying it. And you'll hear the beautiful frequency of Jupiter or Mars or Venus. And that's what we're able to do in the physical forms today with science. I love science. I think science, little by little, is validating what the mystics have spoke about for thousands of years. Going to validate God and God in all of in his and her holiness. So right today, we can validate what Pythagoras is talking about. And it is frequency. Earth has a frequency. It's 7.8 hertz. That's the Schumann resonance that they were able to know. And for your information, they're saying that that frequency is starting to ascend a little bit. But they were able to know that the frequency of 7.8 hertz is what Mother Earth is emanating, and it's healing to all mammals. And that's one of the reasons why the astronauts, when they leave the planet's atmosphere, have such trouble. And their bones start to, weaken in the muscles and everything else. They're away from the Earth's frequency. And they have to come back and slowly operate. But the frequency of Mother Earth is 7.8 hertz. That's the pulse. And so what you're going to also see, which is fascinating, dolphins with their sonar emit that same frequency. And that when the kids were swimming these are all scientific studies done. But when the kids were swimming with the dolphins, the ones that might have had autism, paralyzed, they were getting better and healing. And that they had only started it as a prize. If they did all their work in summer camp, then they got to swim with the dolphins, right? And they were starting to note, all the teachers, wait a minute, these kids are getting better. And so they started to initiate some studies. Sure enough, when they got the adults that could speak that were paralyzed, they could say, the dolphins are sonaring me. I can feel it. And people that had been paralyzed could start to feel like one of the individuals said it was like an earthquake of sound hit his body. Now, isn't that fantastic? But it just so happens it's 7.8 hertz. The dolphin sonar, healing in so many different ways. So that's a frequency of healing, right? So again, let's go back to Pythagoras. Pythagoras said, man fails to hear these divine melodies because his soul is enmeshed in the illusion of material existence. That's this dense veil of forgetfulness that the Jewish religion speaks of, the kiss of forgetfulness. Well, part of this is ripping off the veils and opening and awakening, do you see, to what our divine birthright is, and remembering and initiating and using those divine intelligences that we have within us. So what Pythagoras said is, when man liberates himself from the bondage of the lower world, with its sense limitations, the music of the spheres will again be audible as it was in the golden age. So that I'm going to touch on in a future sermon, but it's very interesting. Kali Luga, they're talking about there being different ages, about every 25,000 years, that they're talking about these certain ages come through. And this is in the Hindu religion, but you'll start to see where the eye opens and then it closes. And they talk about this golden age, thousands and thousands of years ago. And that we then close and go into a fall of, like, you drop to, goes all the way down into the Iron Age, Bronze, and then you have the dark period, and then you come back up. And again, that might be, it's a cosmological phenomenon that they're starting to link with this, and the precession and the wobble of the earth. And that's something we can get into because there's a lot of math involved in that. But it's very interesting that even Pythagoras, who studied with the Egyptians, said there's this golden age. Do you see that when people heard the music of the spheres? Well, that's also, we know that our heavens right now are warming. Did y'all know that? The whole Milky Way is warming. There is a cosmological phenomenon that the planets in the Milky Way are warming. Now, what the effect is, of course, is it linked to these ages that they're speaking of? And I'm going to go and do a little bit of research, but and it's real mathematical, but it's very, very interesting. So the Milky Way, all the planets are warming. Yes, Earth is warming, And yes, because of some of the things we're doing here, but it's a cosmological phenomenon. Is that linked to this, the 4 ages, where you go from darkness into this golden age, where you remember, where you can see, where maybe your senses are more activated, where you can listen to the music of the spheres? When the human soul regains its true estate, it will not only hear the celestial choir, but join with it in an everlasting anthem of praise to the eternal good. This is Pythagoras. Controlling the infinite number of parts and the conditions of being. Every element in nature has an individual keynote. And I'll go into that, but this is Pythagoras. It is said that of all men, only Pythagoras heard the music of spheres. And I would tell you that I think there's more. Was this music what Job describes in Job 38:7, when the stars of the morning sang together? You see? Mathematics demonstrated the exact method by which the good established and maintained the universe. So that's why you can see Pythagoras is a mystic, but he's now looking at math because God is working in these universal laws, and math is one of them. Taking from chaos, even think of Genesis, out of chaos comes, everything is organized, you see? And so it's organized in a certain way. Number therefore preceded harmony. It is the immutable law that governs all harmonic proportions. So Pythagoras divided the multitudinous parts of creation into a vast number of planes or spheres, and he called it the monochord. The Rosicrucians have the same kind of version of this, but think of a beautiful harp, and you think of all the different levels going all the way from earth, all the way up into the heavens. There's no difference than that than dimensions or frequencies. So it's the same. And they know from the frequencies, you have audible sound, and it goes, you see, up into the inaudible, into light. And then we'll tell you, and I said it before, our bodies actually produce light with the different frequencies. Pythagoras believed in healing music, and he would assign a tone, a harmonic interval, and a number and a name, a color and a form. So that's like this 3D cosmic keyboard. What I would also like to now bring up in tandem with this so that you understand our bodies, and if you put and listen to them with really, really good quality instruments, they can find that you're creating within your body like a beautiful orchestra. Your heartbeat, you see this? Everything is happening, even the water swishing in your body. But the heartbeat, very first heartbeat, even when the baby's in the mama's stomach, the first heartbeat is at 40 hertz. And they're finding out now that 40 hertz is very healing. When they are literally utilizing 40 hertz 3 days a week, you'll start to see this. I can give you who's doing the research. And when you're exposed to that, it's helping with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. But it's interesting to know that the first heartbeat, they call it the M frequency, it's 40 hertz. But within your body, think of it, it's a beautiful orchestra playing all this music. So that's inaudible, we don't hear it. But if you can put a mic to it with strong enough, right, with intensity, you'll start to hear all of this within you, including breathing in, breathing out. You see that? And then your heart's beating, it's pulsing. So you're literally a walking orchestra. It's just inaudible to us. But now think of this beautiful with the planets. It's all the same. And that's this law of correspondence. And when you see the beauty of that, it makes your heart sing, truly. you see? And even think of your heartbeat as like the drum, right? So what we know that this lyre was regarded as the secret symbol of the human constitution. And that's why I love this crystal harp. You see that? Make sure I'm plugged in here the correct way. And the nerves, again, you see, are the strings. The chakras in our bodies all need to be in harmony. And that's where we do this with music, sound, intonation, and removing emotional blocks. Because our thoughts can block ourselves, and also trauma can get embedded in us. Do you see that? Or lower frequencies of thought. And that is why you have in a lot of church services the act of forgiveness. Do you see? Because it's unconditional love. And you'll see 528 is the frequency of unconditional love. And when blood is exposed to it, it repairs the DNA. That's the frequency of 528. Isn't that interesting? But think, if that's the frequency, 528 of unconditional love, and that's a whole thing that I'll talk about in the solfeggio frequencies during the talk. What are you doing when you confess your sins? You don't have to confess them to anyone else. And then asking forgiveness or giving forgiveness. Isn't that producing unconditional love? And your heart chakra opens and love flows more freely. We're creating unconditional love. So yes, we can hear the audible frequency of 528, which can heal our body and repair our DNA. But then now what are you doing when you actually do the act of forgiveness and love, producing unconditional love? You're creating that beautiful aura of energy, electromagnetic current of energy around us that can then heal others, heal yourself. So you can heal your body, but you're healing your emotions. And it's a spiritual forgiveness, do you see? And then you emanate that beautiful light everywhere you go. So that, to me, is you're producing unconditional love. This is the conscious part of this, right? As well as the physical part. Sound is just the audible expression of the spiritual thought. Does that correlate? And then the Greeks, now think about this, knew harmony in proportion. They built structures. Think of those beautiful Greek temples. And you know that it's very healing, like in 1 to 2, 1 to 3. And the beautiful temples in the Egyptian temples were all built with ratios that were very harmonic, not chaotic, you see? So harmony literally gives you all that's like concrete sound. You know, in the buildings itself, it reproduces ratios. And you'll know when you hear music, when you play it on a keyboard, which notes sound that are harmonious. That's what you're doing when you're building temple structures. And then the other part of this is on Earth. Certain places on Earth are known to vibrate certain beautiful healing frequencies, and a lot of the ancient sacred sites, pre-flood, after the flood, all the holy sites in the ley lines, you'll start to see that's where you're having a lot of the temples built. Even when another regime comes in and takes over, they still will place their holy sites on the same mounts. And that's where they're saying, how did the ancient peoples know where all these beautiful earth frequencies emanated? So that's this, there's a frequency of earth that's elemental, but it is healing. And it opens, I think, maybe lifts you physically and spiritually to another level that maybe you can then lift some of those veils off you to be able to perceive and open that portal to the higher dimensions of God. almost like Jacob's staircase to heaven, you see? Isn't that just different dimensions walking up? So we can come back into the Bible and look at these stories and utilize them even from a science perspective. That's dimensions. It can be dimensions of light. So that's what you can walk up and see when you can lift yourself. Just a little teaser here. Did a lot of research on this. And a lot of the mystery schools were utilizing F sharp. And I think F sharp, and it's beautiful, but F sharp is a beautiful frequency that I think opens some chakra points up that is able to lift you and help create that portal. Also think, and I would love to be able to compute that here, you can compute the room, the length and the width, and get a certain frequency. And then if you play that frequency, it creates that resonant frequency of that room. And that would be something I would love to be able to do here one time. So if you guys want to, I will try to do that maybe come summer.
That would be awesome.
And there's a formula that you can do where you compute the length and the width. Do you see that? And you can get, it's a ratio, remember? And what do you think? Look at this. What do you think Pythagoras was doing? A squared plus B squared. Do you see how it all intermingles together here? So you can create the keynote. He's talking about a keynote. Well, I think we have keynotes. Do you see our emotions, our physical bodies, and it may change the decades, but we have a keynote that if we can hit, if we can sing, do you see, it will help heal us. That is our keynote. But each room, each dimensional room, if you compute the number, right, will give you the frequency of that room. And if Rife, when he's hitting certain resonant frequencies, even, the glass, when you sing, you can shatter it. Do you see that? It almost seems to me it would be a helper that if we hit that resonant frequency of the room and then we were able to all match it, that wouldn't it shatter that veil and allow us to be lifted into the higher dimensions. So I'm bringing together a lot of synthesizing this for you to show you where it came from, where it can go, and how we can utilize it today. So nothing would be complete unless we talked about Pythagoras, Rife, and Tesla. He was one of my heroes. This is what Tesla said on light, because remember, we're producing light. And all light is a higher frequency of sound. So, okay. This is what Tesla said in an interview with the journalist, Mr. Smith, 116 years ago. This is how high he was. Everything is light. In its rays is the fate of nations. Each nation has its own ray in that great light source, the sun. And remember that no one who was here did not die. They transformed into the light, and as such exist still. The secret lies in the fact that the light particles restore to their original state. Isn't that beautiful? Just so Tesla, again, is a scientist, but he's a mystic too. Do you see this? And so let's see if we can talk a little bit here before I'm trying to watch my time. There are natural laws, and that's what God is producing, natural universal laws, right? There's a harmonic relationship to planets, constellations, and elements. Heaven to earth to our own bodies. That's what I was trying to show you. One to another. Think of a shell, a tortoise shell, even with all the different, beautiful images on it. And I've got one here that is unbelievable. It looks like a cymatic shape. I'll show it to you. Don't leave until I show it to you. But now just to imagine, and that's the Fibonacci sequence that's happening, that's mathematical to produce. Do you see these in the shells that has that spiral form? That same spiral form is in the sunflower, right? And I did a little thing on the sunflower and the Fibonacci sequence, how that works, and it's the divine ratio. Again, Pythagoras and math, right? So think of the Milky Way, think of the shell. Is it not the same? Think about a tornado, a hurricane. Do you see this? They're all the same, and they're all working in that same beautiful math sequence. Now think of the periodic table. This is when you really merge science with what God is doing. It's amazing. John A. Newlands, while making a list of the elements in the ascending order of their atomic weights, discovered that at every 8 element, a distinct repetition of the properties occurred. It is known as the law of octaves. In modern chemistry, not just music. So go ahead and bring up the table, the periodic table. There's a law of octaves in operation, and it's repeating the same thing that's on a music keyboard. Isn't, when you can see the beauty of that, one is embedded in the other. It's the same universal law. Pythagoras used musical medicine, especially the lyre. At the close of each day, he would have everyone play. Again, it's ratios, certain ratios, harmonic. That's why we want to listen to harmonious music, think harmonious thoughts. And so sound is just the element, the audible element that we can hear. But then we think it too, then we produce it. He stated the soul could be purified from its irrational influences by solemn songs sung with the lyre. There are 7 primary sounds that the Egyptians spoke of. Very interesting. You see the 7, the octaves. Again, the Egyptians, how many thousands of years ago, are talking about the 7 primary sounds. And they said, I am the great indestructible lyre of the whole universe, attuning the songs of heaven. That's what the Egyptians said. Isn't that beautiful? See, now can you see where Pythagoras and the Egyptians, it's all the same beautiful imagery and information. And, you know, part of our journey here is to sing our song with grace and with beauty and with wonderful compassion and love, but also sometimes with strength and courage. And that's where you're overcoming vices to acquire the virtues. And that has been done in every single mystery school and every church. Isn't that the journey? Overcoming vices, not thinking impure thoughts, thinking pure thoughts, and having the character and the actions to bring that through to fruition. That is the journey. And then we sing our songs, our beautiful keynotes, and we walk, we're light, and we heal others and heal ourselves and the world. And I have so many things that I would like to continue on. You guys are going to have to come back to the long lecture, right? But so I'll try to close with this, that there are, just like the colors of the rainbow are 7. See that the law of octaves in chemistry, but think of the colors of the rainbow. Think of the notes, the chakras, right? But think of the notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Everything. Do you see that? So the 7 days of creation. And so there's mathematical components to that. The mystery schools will also teach that 3 is the triune force, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, you see. And then 4 is the elements, the universal law. So that's the material and the divinity coming in to produce the 7. That's also why 7 is so critical and so important. But the Egyptians would have even said the 7 primary vowels. And so think of the beautiful rainbow. And then light, again, is just another aspect of sound. It's all one aspect, right? It's just different frequencies of it, where you divide it or you multiply it all the way up into the higher frequencies. So what I'm going to do is play this beautiful 7-note do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but it's in the key of 432. And that is very, very, very important. 432 is a frequency that they know that Pythagoras used. It was changed later, and I can go into great detail on that. But just remember that we know that that's what Pythagoras had asked everyone to utilize. And we now know why it's so important. We're also realizing that F sharp is the same note that permeates the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid of Giza. So we've got F sharp that's important, 432, 528. When you come back we have every month, the first Sunday of the month at 10:30, it's the Divine Healing Service with Reverend Sharon Elizabeth. I will bring my lambdoma, and the entire service is keyed in 528. So every note that I play on that lambdoma, as we say the sounds of, and chant the intonations of God, we are doing it in the frequency of 528, which is the unconditional frequency of love. So what I'd like to do before we close, I'm trying to be very mindful, is to utilize this beautiful crystal heart for just a few minutes. And now you know how important it is to align your thoughts and your words. And now just hear the audible sounds. And take the thought of peace. Imagine it. Imagine it with you, your family, all nations. Take the thought of love. Loving yourself. Loving others. For God so loved the world. And He loved you. And then you can love yourself. And now take that love into your heart, into your mind, and send it to the world that so needs this love and healing from on all dimensions as you're exposed to it. It repairs the DNA. It repairs families. It can repair nations and heal all the wrongs and making them right. And now it's really important today to sow love throughout the entire world. All of our leaders, all the people, send love and strength. For this truly is a battle where love and light and the Christ and the Holy needs to win. And let it permeate the entire world. Know that it is so, because when Jesus said, have the faith of a mustard seed, we need to have that faith to know that love wins. The Christ wins. Light, love, and the Christ win. And this is a beautiful battle where light wins. I'd like to close with light always can permeate the darkness. Darkness cannot permeate the light. So walk in love, walk in light, walk in pure thoughts. So I'm going to close this service. Remind everyone, if you'd like to know a lot more about sound and the holy elements, to go ahead and come back to that metaphysical festival here. I'm thinking they might have it on Zoom. And I also have today for everyone here, if they would like, this is a beautiful tuning fork that I can go around everyone. This is keyed into 432 again. They might be able to hear that on Zoom. And it's so healing. So it's a beautiful, wondrous gift. 432, if you'd like, you can stay, because that to me, and I'd love to be able to show everyone, the Egyptians would have the Ankh. They were utilizing the Ankh and they were gifting it to the pharaohs. And it's a key, it's a frequency. Do you see? And they would even have these like streams of energy coming around everyone. And it is a frequency that they're utilizing to help lift, to help heal. So we can utilize that today. And I would like to remind everyone, to please come back. We love you having your love and light here. If you're so compelled, and we would love to have that love offering for the Cosmic Church of Spiritual Light. You go to our website, ccosl.com/donate. So if you could do that, we have a basket here for the people in person, but every gift is very much appreciated, and we appreciate your time and your love and your attention, because that is it's consciousness and attention. So thank you for being here and being with us. I'm going to sign off now with Zoom and Facebook Live, if I can do it. And namaste. Hope to see you soon.